The second episode of the show that I bring you rugby analysis is here. I bring you the Adams Show, focusing on how Kenya has done internationally in rugby. Has Kenya succeeded worldwide and continentally in rugby games? As we see, the Shujaa have made us proud in one occasion or the other, and we as Kenyan citizens have been so proud of our team. But do these people have major setbacks that make them not to achieve what they want, them as players? The failures might be as a result of government not chipping in to help these players. How have these players achieved the success that they receive in international games without the help of the government or the help of the rugby body? Again, with my sport analyst who brought you the last time episode, we take a look how Kenya has fared internationally in rugby.
Okay, welcome back to our second segment on rugby. My name is William Juguna. I work for the Star newspaper. I cover the game of rugby alongside many other sports. So in the first segment, we talked about the history of the game, how the game came into Kenya, who was playing it, which are the dominant teams, how the game has grown in leaps and bounds, because right now the game is being played all over the country. It's no longer a Nairobi game. We've got teams playing very good rugby in Western Kenya, in parts of the Rift Valley, in parts of Eastern and at the coast. So let's look at how we've been faring on internationally. Now, Kenya has made its name in sevens, because that's where we've actually have a foothold in the game of rugby. Seven-a-side rugby. In 2016, in April, we won the Singapore Sevens, where we beat Fiji in the final after almost 16 years of playing on the circuit. Now, this circuit is whereby you have the world's best teams, the likes of New Zealand, Fiji, Australia, France, England, the big boys who have really been playing rugby for the last 100 years, of course, and also including South Africa. So we won the seventh circuit in 2016. Before that, we'd also qualified for the Rugby World Cup Sevens from as way back as 2001 in Mar del Plata, Argentina, and also in 2005. And then our best performance at the Rugby World Cup has come at the semi-finals, where we were in the semi-finals in Dubai in 2009 and 2013. And we won our only main cup competition in Singapore in 2016 when we beat Fiji. Since then, we've got into two finals in Vancouver and Hong Kong in 2018 under Innocent Timu. And of course, the man who led us to the 2016 final and the trophy was the late Benjamin Ayimba, who was also a former captain and a former player for the team. So internationally, we've not been that consistent. We blow hot and cold, and it's clearly evidenced, as you saw what happened last week during the World Cup qualifiers in Uganda. We lost to Uganda, but we've qualified for this year's World Cup, which will be played in South Africa, and Kenya will also be taking part at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, which we've also been taking part since 1998 when rugby was included in the Commonwealth Games. Now, on the 15th front, we're yet to qualify for the World Cup. And that's where the money is, ideally. We came very close to qualifying for the World Cup in 2015 in the UK, but we lost to Zimbabwe in the last game of the tournament in Madagascar. Now, what do we need to do to make sure that our rugby can become a household name, or our rugby can become at par with what we see in New Zealand, South Africa, France, and England? First of all, we've got to go to age grade rugby. We need to start this game from a very young age, and I'm not talking about high school, because most of our sevens players, most of our very good players start playing rugby when they're in high school, which is very late. When you compare to players who are in New Zealand, France, and South Africa and Australia, who start this game at the age of 5. If you can start our rugby at primary school level, and I'm not saying that they take up contact, it just mean playing basic touch rugby. If they can start the game at age 5 or age 6, then we can change it. I think we can change this idea and this concept of us being a global powerhouse. Because if you talk to most of the international coaches, they'll tell you that we are the sleeping giant of rugby in the world. We've got the athleticism, we've got the speed, we've got the skill, but we just our rugby development starts very, very late. And if we can start early, then I think ideally we can match these teams which are the world beaters.
We now take a short commercial break before we resume to answering the questions that you have regarding Kenya in international games.
Secondly, this game also needs money. If you look at the game right now, the game of rugby went professional in 1995, much later than even football. But right now, this game is a game which needs money, it needs resources, it needs sponsors, and we have to look at that, by the way, because without money, there's no way we can tap. We will tap talent and send development and send funds into those areas of the country whereby we need to start developing the game. This game needs money, and if you can get money, and I'm not talking about 5-10 million, we need like probably hundreds of millions of shillings, so that in the next 5 to 10 years we've got a good crop of players who have been nurtured into the game, who started playing rugby at the age of 5. And then, of course, now we have these systems whereby you have an under 8, under 10, under 12, under 14, under 16, under 18, under 20. Then that way, I can guarantee you, in the next 5 to 10 years, I would say 10 years, Kenya will become a powerhouse. Kenya can start rivaling the likes of England, New Zealand, South Africa, France, Australia. But as it is right now, we are still very amateur. And a good chunk of the world's best teams are all professional. So once we do those two things, we start the game early and we have those resources. I can guarantee you, this game, Kenya will become a very powerhouse. Also, looking at player welfare, player welfare can only become a reality if we start having money into the game, so that players can earn from the game. Most of the players who you see playing rugby, especially for our community-based clubs, Mwamba, Impala, Queens, have day jobs which they do. Yeah, they work from 8 to 5 in a company, and then from 5 to 8 or 6 to 8 or 6 to 9, they are training. Now, for us to become a professional team, it'll mean, or to us for us to professionalize the game, it means that most of these players have to leave their jobs, pay them a salary for them now to be, to be training every day, Monday to Friday, so that now they can play, whatever, the game full time. Now that will take time. It'll need resources. It'll need money, and that's the only way we can go and make sure this game is competitive, and make sure that players can live off rugby. Because if you go to England, or if you go to New Zealand or France or South Africa, the game is professional. Players drive cars, players have homes, players have investments, players have got so many things, all by playing the game of rugby. So if we can do that, then I think ideally this game is going to grow.